we have a very special something from a young man. I call her young because I have gray hair, so that makes him very young. A gentleman, he's a celebrated artist, and he has something to show us this evening, and that is none other than Gary Murungi. I don't want to let the cat out. Please come and show us what you have prepared for us this evening. I think you can use that one. That one. Or you need the flexibility of a mobile mic. Okay, then you can use this one.
Good evening, everyone. I am very privileged and happy to be here today. My name is Murungi Gary, and I'm an artist. A small profile on me, I'm 24 years old. I'm an artist, I'm an all-round creative and an all-round artist. I do graphics design, which is like some of the work you can see on the screens. That's some of my results of my expertise. I'm a photographer, I'm a traditional artist. I also do some bit of interior design and videography. So today, I want to present to you this custom art piece that I have done specifically for this event. And it is acrylic on canvas. I used acrylic paint on canvas. It measures 84 centimeters in height and 118 centimeters in width. I curated this art piece based on the theme. So it's going to talk a lot about what has been explained since morning, the green economic zones, academia, sustainability, inclusivity. All of that is represented within this painting visually. Yes, with that said, I would like to present to you the 2023 Mkutano live painting. Thank you. So this piece was curated to today's event, and it has very many representations of what was being talked about today. First and foremost, I have what stands out the most, which is this lady that means inclusivity and youth. She represents the youth. She has her head up high above the city, which is a silhouette of Kampala city, to represent confidence of the youth. And moving forward, I have these different icons that rotate around her head, which represents her thoughts. This person is a youth that wants to grow with the economy. So the different icons, I'll start from the bottom, which is a hand holding a leaf that shows economic growth. This represents economic growth. It was my idea that I will interpret it in that way. And then I have the bulb, which also represents innovation. I believe that as a young person, I'm also innovative in some kind of way. So I had to represent that using this bulb right here. Then I have that kind of bar that represents economic growth as well. Then I have the books that represent the education systems and academia that was talked about today. And finally, I have the factory representation, which is like green energy and sustainable industries. That's what it represents. So I splattered very many colors on this painting to represent the different people. We have people of different color, across the globe, and we all come together to create this wonderful piece of beauty. With that said, my name is Murunji Gary. Thank you very much.
I don't know why this microphone does this to me. Thank you very much, Gary. Oh my God. Who wouldn't appreciate this kind of creativity? A round of applause for Gary. Thank you so much. I saw him bent over there, and I had no idea this is what he was creating. Thank you so much. You pretty much captured everything. Do we still need a wrap-up? I think it's all captured in here. Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite David to come and in turn invite our chief guest to give the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is going to be quick. Gary forgot to mention that I am his manager exclusively for both Uganda and worldwide. So if you want to get to him, you have my number. But we have to really put our hands together for the talent that we have in this country. And I think that's a snippet of what can happen elsewhere. It's not just the art or the creatives, it's in the production, the engineering, the finance. So call to arms, let's find a way of putting in the enabling sort of receptor for this talent to thrive. My job is very simple. I won't be recapping the day, but I think the motivation behind this engagement is a lot to do with harvesting the right experiences and ideas from in-country organizations that are friendly to us and offshore to sort of consolidate into some action ledger. That action ledger requires the blessing of government, but also the committed participation of the private sector, academia, and everyone that you saw going up and down this stage. We've done that before. We intend to do this. We've gotten a lot of lessons on a model that works in Mozambique. How do we onboard it and make sure that out of the 48 strands of cotton that Mauritius imports, they reduce it by 1 to 47, and the Ugandan cotton stays here for our own native TNA industry. Over and above that, the length and breadth of this country is full of resources, human and otherwise, that need to be harvested. I think inclusivity is key. Gary actually did our graphics. If you see the silhouette of our woman speaks to our intent to theme our Mkutanos this year on the aspect of inclusivity. It's not something that we take lightly. Forgive the manual that was on stage earlier, but it was beyond our control. And yes, Kathy said it's all wrapped up here. My job is simple, to give thanks to my team. I think my team needs to stand up a little bit because they've been working sleepless nights. It's Jonathan, Maria, Pia, Erica, who else? There's some people online. Give yourselves, they're still working. There's some, Gary himself, who's been, I don't know how that man operates, but he's not slept in days. But also our core partners, I'm going to try and list them. There's UNCDF, our historical, Stanbic Bank, and Stanbic Properties now, the NSSF. We have had Gatsby Africa come for the second time around. Thank you very much for being physically present and contributing to the discourse. Private Sector Foundation, a lot of the action points lay at your door. We'll be calling you as early as tomorrow morning for the setup of the next convention. We've had MasterCard Foundation, Uganda Bankers Association, who I'm working very closely with. I'm very excited about that. And obviously, Mandalis Energy and the Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I would also like to thank you, the delegates, for affording us the time. We don't take it lightly, so please give yourselves a round of applause. And without further ado, it's my singular honor and pleasure to invite Senior Advisor to the Coordinator of Operation Wealth Creation, former Ambassador to China, General Philip Idro. Karibu. He has many more titles, but there's not enough time to list, by the way. Many, many more.
Good evening, everybody. I know we are all getting tired, but everything that starts must be closed properly. And I think this final thing is going to be a simple one, so bear with me. This morning, when the conference was being opened, the minister said he wants the conclusions of this session. And I think we have done well, but we need to do it a little bit more in greater detail. But even before I came, General Saleh, with whom I was in touch yesterday, specifically said, if it is textiles, I would like you to meet that team concerned of textiles, so that we can sort out the matter properly. And I think Gatsby team and the people from other sectors spoke well. And I'm very grateful to them about that. But basically what we are talking about, all in all, is about the industrialization of Uganda. For those who are economists, and for those who are aware of the social revolutions, you will be, I think, aware that there are 3 stages of the economy, if I may use my nomenclature. The first one is the primary economy, which is mainly extractive. Agriculture, where you extract from the topsoil, and forestry as well. Then you have fisheries, but you also have minerals. Those are the things that start and where every civilization has started, and most simple societies live. The second stage is called processing, whether it is heavy processing or light manufacturing. That is a little bit more complex, and that is industrialization. And that is what we're talking about today. There can be no development in most countries without industrialization. And if the world, as you see it, is moving in the same trajectory we know, you will find that soon any country that is not industrialized will be in trouble with itself. And today, the urban population is even higher than the rural population in the world because of industrialization. I've been made to believe that I think we're almost 60% urbanized. But that's mainly a factor of industrialization, and that's what we're talking about. The question is if we're going to have it scattered, or we're going to have it so well organized that there is even an internal efficiency involved. I think this issue of industrial parks is about organizing industries much better than in the traditional form where it grew organically. And because it grew organically, there were no internal efficiencies that made it higher. You will notice that China, Japan, and Korea have become much more efficient because of the way they have industrialized their countries. When you are in a place like China, where I was for many years, you will see industrial areas of dangerous chemicals. Because the effluent is a problem in disposing, the infrastructure has to be different. And so industries that are not dangerous are not put near them. And that marks a beginning for those who are already industrialized, which means we have an opportunity to industrialize because of the past knowledge. But that's the second level, the secondary stage. We are at the tertiary stage. All of us here normally are at the tertiary stage, and that is the service sector. We are post-industrialization, and we basically organize now, deliberately, industrialization of countries and the improvement and the greater efficiency of primary productions of agriculture or extractive industries. So it is right that we should discuss this, and I think we can understand it best. The question is, my friend from Mauritius will ask, do we have any practical experience? And I think that's where one of the major problems is. And if I may allude to that, and I would like this to be proved, I am sure Yanka, Ijuka, and Patricia here can confirm what I am saying. The bankers tell us that Uganda has much more money than it is using efficiently. But most Ugandans believe we don't have money. Now, who knows the truth? Recently, a very small contribution of 1.4 million people called NSSF has proved that we have so much money from such a small group that if you collect all the money together, how much more do you think it will be? NSSF has so few members, 1.4, but there are over 17 trillion shillings. The banking sector, my data says that by 2021, September, Ugandans had 34 trillion shillings in the bank, of which the bank only lent 17 trillion, which meant that there was another 17 trillion suffering, waiting to be loaned out. Patricia, am I speaking out of the context, or is my speech or my data almost near the correct facts? It's correct, isn't it? So if Uganda has much more money, then where is the problem? Much more money than it can use, that is. So I think we need to understand our macro system much better so that we know what to do and where our real weaknesses stand. But that's one. If today I tell you what Uganda imports plus what it exports, you are going to cry tears. I have some figures here from URA. While I know our exports of coffee is now about $800 million a year, followed next by fish, which is about $200 million, which is followed next by milk, $150 million, and others that follow. Cocoa, $100 million, tea, $70 million, sugar, and all that. The total bill does not reach $2 billion of commodity exports. But you would be surprised that in the year 2020, pearls, maridadi ya wanawake, these women use, plus precious stones, Uganda imported $1.8 billion. Beautification. The Ugandan women are already beautiful, but now they want to add $1.8 billion a year to look I don't know what. I was talking to my daughter here. She says, but you are the ones who like us to look nice. I said, no, I cannot kiss stones. I want you, not these stones and the colors. So stop misdirecting your concept. So if coffee exports is $800 million, but beautification products are $1.8 billion a year, where is the problem? I can show you the whole list. I have it here. It's on the internet, by the way. It is even more than mineral fuels and oil, more than machinery, more than vehicles. Vehicles is only $550,000. Electronic products are 400. Plastics, 380. Iron and steel, 360. Pharmaceuticals, 351. Cereals, $260 million. We are losing $1.8 billion for Maridadi. Hair, all this. Patricia, aren't we in trouble with our pattern of living? So how can we then say we cannot industrialize? And why should we industrialize? Okay, now, if we are to industrialize, if we don't industrialize, it means we have to import. Excuse me. Now, if I tell you to remove every product which is industrial on yourself and walk out, leave it here, I am sure you will fear to go out. All your jackets, your shirts, your panties, your trousers, your shoes, even the perfumes you have to wash before you go out. Now, that tells you that that is what we need. And instead of agreeing to produce it here, we instead export coffee, and then we buy Maridadi and other things. So there is a demand, and it will employ us. But we are not interested in that. We are interested in importing and then saying government must do that, so and so, investors must do that, this other group must be this. So what are we doing when we are spending all our money importing? So, if NSSF can raise so much money, and the banks can raise more money than we can invest, where is the problem? To me, that is where I see. And of course, that means we need business development services to educate us what to do. That is true. So, what about if everybody saved money? So I think we need to look at our macro system better. I am in OWC, Operation Wealth Creation, but the more I analyze the Ugandan structures, I find there is a big problem. I'm going to give you another scenario to tell you where another problem is. I have done a research, or I should say OWC has done a research of the thinking capacity of Ugandans. And we have found out that Ugandans actually do not know money. And that's why we're having a problem of investment and all these things. I went into the markets and I found out that most market women have between $300 to $1,000 as their capital stock. Of course, there are some people in the market who have $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. But the average stock capital of a market woman is between $300 to $1,000. So I suppose that's the cap of their mental limit. The kiosks operate between $300 to $1,000. The Batembei are also within $500 to $1,000 capital. But what they carry around themselves is normally less than $500. And then the small retail shops have a capital stock of about $5,000, some average $10,000. The big shops, $100,000, $200,000 stock, but most of it is borrowed from the wholesalers, and they pay back after sales. Wholesalers, there are few Africans. Those can go up to $2 million, but they also get credit lines. So it's a management issue of sales and returning of capital back to those who have loaned to them the sales, the goods. Now, when you go to factories, most factories in Uganda are between $20,000 to $50,000. Of course, there's another category of between $250,000 to $500,000, although the average weight is more on $200,000. There are very few factories with over $1 million. The biggest factory, single one, is Madvani's of $45 million, one purchase, and then breweries of $80,000 for a malt factory. Now, you will say, what is happening? How can that be? Madvani has many factories of $10 million, $5 million, $15 million. So cumulatively, it looks big. But there is no single purchase of a factory of more than $45 million. And this is even with Mkutano. So in other words, the Ugandan's mind is limited in how to use money. So however much you complain to government or you talk to anybody, if these people cannot use that money because they don't understand it, you cannot develop. So how are you going to build factories of $200,000, $500,000 if you are used to a capital of $20,000? So it is very important that we understand this spectrum of our society so that we know exactly what kind of investments we can talk about and why. And then we can make them grow. A person already has the ambition and has put in $5,000, $50,000. Why do you abandon him for an abstract? You grow that one. The other one with $50,000, you grow him or her. And soon, and that's why business development services is critical. More than you think. Even me, when I started my business earlier on, it was business development services that made my mind clear, and then I started to grow properly. So it is not right for us to talk from without. We need to know the actual situation of the current investors in Uganda and what is happening to them and correct them so that they don't break, so that they can grow. You don't need to criticize them and stop them. So my friend, the bankers, it's important for you to make sure your clients live. While Bank of Uganda may put hard conditions on you, we need to engage Bank of Uganda to see how these companies can be revamped rather than saying the law is that they must be broken. So, in my view, therefore, the industrialization is the new order, and there are very many ways in which to achieve it. If I give you the Korean formula, it is very different from the formula from Taiwan. It is also very different from the formula in China. It was very different from the formula in Japan. And therefore, they will be very different from our formulas. Because we have to have a reasonable, realistic, and a rational approach when we are designing some of these formats. And that is how I understand today's discussions. We were not conclusive because we were all discussing our ideas, and that's the correct way. But we need to be conclusive. So, Mkutano, I am going to request one major conclusion from you. I would like, within a period of 2 weeks, a document from you on the results of this conference so that we can take a copy to the Minister of Industry as requested by him, and also to General Salim Saleh, the Chief Coordinator for Operation Wealth Creation, so that we can take it to the next level. And I think this was also something asked by this young lady who was there. Is her name Antoinette? Is that how she introduced herself? Yeah, because she talked about what next. And I'm very grateful that we don't want to end this without what next. So once this document is made, then we can discuss at another level on how to operationalize it for purposes of better clarity and then maybe development of strategies on how to move forward. Otherwise, this is going to be a waste, which I don't want. But specifically speaking, if I have to make a brief summary of the details, because that was my broad understanding of what this is about. But specifically, in this meeting today, David Ofungi, the curator of Mkutano, said that this program is designed around implementing learnings that speak directly to investment opportunities that local investors can pivot into from a project development perspective. And I want to thank David for that, because that is really what we need to do. And he was saying that we can't do anything proper without the right finances, which is this is why bankers were invited today to complement the Mkutano 23 circle in terms of conversations like inclusion, trade, and so much more. And let me thank all the stakeholders present here. The Minister of Trade, of State for Trade Industry, Honorable David Bahati, said that the role of government is to create a private sector that can flourish. And this is why peace and security remains a key contribution, because peace is good environment for business. He also said infrastructure availability is another form of support that government is extending to the private sector. And he alluded to the fact that government is constructing 22 industrial parks in the next 5 years. That will be fully sustainable. The provision of constant electricity is the key focus. Government is also making it easier for the private sector to access affordable credit through establishments like the UDB, which will give extension to SMEs. And he also said credit is costly yet, and private sector players like banks were asked to reduce the cost of credit because government has tried to develop a good environment for them. I am not sure whether this is an easy solution, because if people are depositing more money in the banks and then they are not using it, what happens to the money the banks have? The banks will be forced to buy treasury bills. They will be forced to lend to government. But again, that crowds out the private sector. I think we need a greater conversation on that. So while we must save the banks, if there is no borrowing, the banks must also see what to do. Because my concern here is that when a bank manager has loaned the bank money to the bank, to government, he or she can go and play golf comfortably and there is no problem. And that's not right. So I think banks must also delve in teaching people businesses or improving business by clarity, education, business development services, so that it can also earn more. So it is a symbiotic relationship that we need to create. So that's why access to affordable capital is still a challenge, in the sense that it is borrowed money, but if it is not borrowed money, like it is savings money, it can be very different. So this is borrowing from banks. I did an evaluation of the banks on financing agriculture, but we shall discuss that another day, because both of us have weaknesses, both the banks and the farmers. We need to discuss. It is part of our common issues. So the private sector is in front and center of catalyzing economic green zones, and we have a strategy geared towards delivering more opportunities with the help of the strength of the private sector. Actually, most people do not see how big the private sector is. When Safaricom issued its IPOs, it was bought 3 times more in Uganda. When Stanbic Bank also brought IPOs, Ugandans subscribed 3 times more. So it means that there is a lot more money. And when mobile money came was when the banks woke up to a reality that actually they were too conservative and traditional in their methodologies. And I'm glad they responded by opening up with the agency banking as a first step. And they are not losing their money there. So I think there's need for the banks to revisit their methods and so on. So PSFU is a big organization organizing SMEs, youth and women. Although they have trouble because these people have trouble in accessing credit and the youth have challenges. So we have a problem from there. So these are some of the summaries that I recall. I don't need to delve too much in them. There were several that were also made by PSFU and others. The question is, as I think somebody said, we're all agreed on the way we are going. The question is, how are we really concretizing it so that we can come to the right conclusion? I think that's where the main issue is. But there is need for a green economic zone. And there is need for a sound industrial policy that includes multiple mechanisms to promote industrializations. I think that is really what was discussed today and attempts to make us go towards that line. So if we are agreed and agree together, then we should really be able to work. We just need more of the facts so that we can get the combinations in a better thing. In the military, what we call is the situation. What is the real situation? Not assumed situation, but the real situation. And from there is where you design the strategy so that you can make conclusions for the next steps of the intent. The intent can only come from the situation. But I think people are not yet very clear about the situation, and they carry on the situation of when they were formed or where they originated their thinking from. That's not good enough. That doesn't allow for creativity. But we're still at that stage. Having said that, I see a very beautiful painting here, and I think this painting really should go to where it is deserved. I have a great appetite for it, but I don't think I qualify. And I don't think Mkutano should also hold it as its own. So in this regard, I think, don't you think it should go to Gatsby? Because I'm also trying to bribe them so that they get me the knowledge that we need for the textiles. Is that right? Thank you for accepting. So if the representative of Gatsby can come here.
She's right there.
I'll be honored to, David, you better join me so that we can hand it over properly. And so it's you. Okay, fine.
Antoinette, please.
Very good.
Join
So
Ambassador
please
on
a
the
clap
stage.
for Gatsby.
Just join him. He's going to...
For accepting the honors. I don't want to lift it. David, you better join me here.
David is coming over to you.
Copies, yes. So, on behalf of all of you who are here, and I think being ably sponsored by Mkutano and his partners, I would like to take the honor to present this lovely painting to this lovely lady who also is the boss of Gatsby. Come and take it. Come and take it.
Thank you very much. On behalf of our organization, we're really touched by that offer. But what I want to say is we will hold it, and when we open our first factory, we'll bring it back, and we'll hang it there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
David, thank you so much for this. Yeah?